Okay, got this all trimmed up. Looks good. I was actually going to try and do this morning, but it was so bright here I just couldn't film. It just wasn't working. So I already know what this length was. The first one, you're just going to cut a 45 and a 45. Okay? And you just line it up, and we're going to put one nail right here. So let me get my gun. And basically, all you're doing is measuring from the inside to inside, and then whatever reveal you want. I like about 3/16 or 1/4 of an inch. I usually just add 3/8 of an inch. So whatever that measurement is, add 3/8. And then you just put it in here so she lines up and it kind of looks good. And you know what? This doesn't have to be perfect. It's a window, and you'll never see it again. You will see it if you really screw it up, but we're not going to do that, are we? Next step. I've cut my next one. I haven't done it to 45 yet. So what I'm doing is 45 here, and I'll put it up against this one, and I'll see what it looks like. And I can see that my 45 is good, but I have a gap here. I don't know if you can see that, but just take my word for it. There's a gap here. My 45 looks good. If I was out and the board was down like that and I had a big gap up here, or it was tight but down here was out, then I can adjust my angle. That's why I like doing it one piece at a time up against the window. So I can, if my saw is out a little bit, I can keep adjusting my angle until I'm perfect and I got a good, nice, tight fit over here. But let's go over this saw. What you have to do here, and whether or not it's a little high up here, but what we will do is we will back cut this, okay? So that, does that make any sense? We're going to cut this on a bit of an angle here so that that gap will tighten up, because the gap was even all the way across. I'm going to show you how to do that. Hope that makes sense. It does to me. Okay, in order to back cut this, so this is the front, and we want to cut this on a bit of an angle here so that this part, the bottom is hitting on that 45 and not allowing the whole gap to close up. So we're going to back cut this on a bit of an angle. Now if you haven't got a saw, if you got a saw that will turn this way and cut it, that works. But most people don't have that saw. I don't, mine goes this way. So what you can do, I just cut an 1/8 inch shim here. Stick that shim underneath there. And we're going to recut this 45. Now because it's up on an angle, it's going to cut this on an angle. Now we can go back there and see if that's tightened that up. So with that little bit of a back cut, now that is a very tight joint here. And if we bring it down to where it's supposed to be, we got a nice reveal all the way across. Like it. So now we just go to this end, and we'll make our mark, cut our 45. So if you just do one measurement and then you come around and just mark it where you reveal, you just eye your reveal up. Put a line to make sure that you cut it the right way. And we'll just go back cutter and we'll put this one on. Alright, I made my cut. Now we're just going to glue this joint. I'm using 2-inch brads here, 21 gauge, not 21 gauge, 18 gauge. I think I'm up one too many. There. So get her lined up nice. I'm just going to put one in the middle. I had to kind of wait for that air compressor. And then you want this one to be done. So just put a couple of rods in there. Make sure you're hitting your 2x4s. Now we can move on to this corner. Now I haven't back cut this one yet because I don't know how it's going to look. So let's just see. And if I look here, I can see that this is so much more proud than this, or else this piece of lumber is a little bit bent. Let's put a nail in there. I think it's going to help me out a little bit. Make sure I'm at the right. Yeah, looks good. Okay, so what we got going on here is the wall sloping away from us. We got lots happening here. But we hold this up there. Wow. See, now I got a really, really tight joint there, but we don't have to, but if I put it in there to get it perfectly tight, you can see that my board goes on a bit of an angle. So if I cut just a little bit more of an angle, just a little more than a 45, that should tighten up. So I'll go over and just set it maybe half a degree more. I'll give it a cut and see how it fits. Now what you can do, what I did was I just brought my board up against my blade here, right? And I can see how much of a gap I actually have. So I worked it out to be about 1/4 of a degree, not very much. Okay, our reveal is really nice. So now I can come down here, make a mark, and we'll cut that. 45. So one of the secrets that I use when I'm doing this trim is I've always got a sacrificial piece somewhere, or you've always got an extra chunk somewhere. But I'm really thin on this stuff, so I don't. But before I nail this up, I know that this one's a 45, so I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to check to see how that looks on a 45. And the 45 looks good. I really have to do a back cut on this, so I know that, like quite a bit. Wow, this is really, so what's happening here is the drywall is way out. That's not too bad there. Wow. Okay. But I know that the 45 looks good. So now I can just come up here, nail this one in. But, just let me get back to you in a second. Alright, this wall is really, really wonky. And that's why trimming is such a tough job. So if I was to put that in there and nail it, I'm out a long ways. So what I gotta do is I gotta shim this out a little bit. I'm just using a paint stick. That's how far out it is. That looks good right there. And you can see that this piece is a little bit bigger than this one. I'll have to trim a little off the top, but we're good right here. Perfect right there. Perfect right there. So now Put a little glue in there, put a nail in. So, no nail here. Well, I got that one there to push this in a little ways because the wall's so crooked. But I won't put one here yet. I'm going to put one right about here. And I'm going to glue this, and when it's all set up, I can pull this out and put a nail in. Chances are you won't have to. If you get one that's close, remember, just trim. That's all it is. It's trim. It's not holding up anything. Joint looks really good. Ah. All right, so I'm gonna grab my stick here. All right, I think I had this camera pointing the wrong way. But anyway, I was checking this angle here, and it looks pretty good. That's just a short little chunk. And I checked this 45 over here, and it was nice. But what I did was this side here really needed a back cut, and I cut it a little long. Okay, you only got one chance to get this one right, unless you got lots of material. So I cut it a little long, so if I'm perfect right here, I can see that that's pretty good right there. I can see that this side over here, either side doesn't really matter, I guess. I mean, let's look at that. Okay, I'm going to go off this side over here. There's a gap on this end, so I need to make that just a little bit greater than a 45-degree angle to make this fit. So cut it a little longer, that way you can check your angles. I'll give it a little tweak and we'll see what happens. Well, our cut went good, but if I put this in here, I'm way down here, so I gotta I'll probably nail that back a little bit, see what happens. This wall is really crooked. And the wood's real crooked, but I think the wall's out. Let's see, where do I need to go here? Okay, our cuts are looking good. So by going a little long, that gives you a couple chances to get it right. So we'll glue this one, and we're gonna have to do a little shimming here to bring this guy out. She's a long ways out. All right, let's glue her up. Should have unplugged that thing maybe, hey? All right, that looks really good. Put one in the middle. Gonna put one right here to push this in. Then, I'm gonna have to shim it. So I'm gonna put my bar in here. Pop it out till it's perfect. See if that shim right there will work. Yeah, I think that'll work. Now this side, put a nail in him. I'm going to put a nail down here because this side needs to come out. So if I put a nail right in here, oh no, what a great time for my my gun to screw up. Be back in a sec. Try this again. Woohoo! Okay, so now I gotta shim this guy out. What I like to do is just use my little bar. Okay, so we need to bring this in a bit, so I'm just gonna put a nail here. Loosen that off just a hair. Perfect. That's a beautiful, beautiful joint. This is nice down here. Love it. So now I am just going to let everything set up, and then I'll come in and put a couple more nails in. This is done. So typically this is what I do in a house because, you know, when you're trying to set up, you know, you've got that clamp. It makes it hard to build everything, but if you're just building in place, then you know that you got your angles right and it's going to fit your window. And if your saw isn't cutting perfectly 45, this method allows for some adjustment. So it's getting hot in here, but we're going to mount up these other ones and we should be good to go. Get her done tonight. Okay, I gotta trim this guy up. Like, that's not too bad. You know, I don't know. I think that to put this stuff in, you gotta be in some sort of a Zen mode. Maybe meditate before you put this spray foam in. But having it come out a little bit, that's not that big of a deal. I was helping a friend of mine out, and he's got a nice Hilti system, and it just lays that stuff in there so beautiful. The stuff you get from the store, it just slams her in there. So you need a good sharp knife here. You need the sharpest tool in the kit. Yeah, with these, it's just a matter of pulling it up. Eyeing her up. That looks pretty good. Drop that down just a hair. That looks pretty good. Drop her down just a hair. You just, like I said, this is just trim. You don't need 1,000 nails. It's like magic. One more. No, I think I got enough room. Just, eh? Let's start down here. Well, after all these years, I finally got some trim on my windows. And I really like it. Now, in this particular case, of course, we're working with rough lumber. You know, this isn't no milled stuff, you know, it's not planed, it's not perfect. So you've got to deal with some imperfections and, you know, just be happy with it. But it's a garage situation. When you're in a home or something like that, you know, you've got a little nicer material, so it's actually easier to do. But I got big plans. Now that I got my trim up, I'm actually going to build some security bars for my windows. I've got a lot of tools in here, and I think it's time to beef things up a little bit, make it tough for people to get in. But that's another video, but about the material, so it's going to be soon. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.